So if this GOP reform bill passes, why will private student loan borrowing absolutely explode? The simple answer is if you have any kind of loan limits whatsoever, even moderate loan limits, that will cause a lot of graduate and professional students to have no choice but to turn to the private markets. Now, why would this happen? Well, think about the math. If you have a really low loan limit and you have a school that's a private school that charges a significant amount of tuition and living expenses, you have to pay for those too, right? You might want to become a physician or a dentist or a lawyer, but if you have to borrow $300,000 and you can only get through the government $150,000, you'd have to make up the difference with private loans or private funds. Those are the only options, right? Or merit scholarships potentially. But, the system's not going to turn on a dime. Like, schools are not going to cut their tuition 50% overnight because of loan caps. They're going to try to keep loan tuition around, or the tuitions for their schools probably around where they've been, and they'll see how many people accept it, and then they'll adapt. But, for anybody that's thinking about going to professional or graduate school, you have to be ready to borrow a lot more money. And also, too, Parent Plus borrowers historically have been able to borrow in limited amounts. They will be capped at about $50,000 if this GOP reform bill passes, or they might be capped at a different number depending on the final outcome of the bill. Regardless, if anything like the GOP reform goes into law and stays in law long term, you will have an absolute explosion in private borrowing. It will be enormous in terms of the market for it. And the problem is private borrowing right now is very FICA credit score based, when really the model should be looking at school quality, earnings, what you're going to make after graduation. That would be a lot more predictive of actual good payback, I think, than a cosigner with a good FICO score. And that's the traditional way that private student loan borrowing has been done. But that's probably not going to fit the moment if you need suddenly many billions of dollars in additional financing that students are going to need. So something to worth, looking at, paying attention to, seeing what will happen with the future state of student loans in the private market with private student loans. And, we just have to wait and see. And, if you want to get tips like this, just follow Student Loan Planner.